Welcome to a quick bevy with Swans fans, where each week Swans fans have 45 seconds to answer some burning bloods and footy-related questions over a quick bevy or two. Today, Chris and I are joined again by our regular guest, Brett. G'day, Brett. How are you?
Gentlemen.
What are we drinking this week, guys? What's going on?
Quite the slurp there, Noddy.
Oh, yeah. Okay, fellas. Off the top, before we get into the weekly Big Four questions, here's a quick pre-game question. Just how stuffed are we without Lizard?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I think it's pretty bad. What do you think, Brett?
Just he's rebounded so well. What's he been, 7 weeks or something? I think he's had a very big impact. He's had some of those moments, the fire up moments where he just does this hard arch your back run, puts it inside 50, turns into a goal. So yeah, I'm very sad he's out.
And it's like, just when you start to see that he's finding his
groove,
place and his groove into a new position, and now he's just got to the space where he's so trustworthy there, where you see him take the ball in the halfback, and every fan knows exactly how you see he arches his back and he starts going for it. Everyone's like, oh, look at Blakey, he's going for one of those runs. And what was it? It was a bit of a weird marking situation. He was a bit underneath, and then it's just the foot landed in the wrong spot. Had the foot landed in an inch either way, it would have been a different story. He'd be playing. But yeah, football.
Yeah.
So close.
I think we are. Well, not completely, but it's definitely a big impact.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, I guess we lose that dash. I mean, we've got Cunningham and Fox who can step up and fill that void, but they're not quite Lizard, are they? So let's hope we can fill the void until he comes back next year, bigger and stronger. And what kind of Lizard next year, lads? Komodo.
Know it.
Yeah, nice one. All right, that's awesome. Okay, we're going to kick off with our Big Four weekly questions. Now, remember, you'll both have 45 seconds to give your answers. And I'll give you a warning bell with 5 seconds to go, which sounds like this.
There it is.
All right. Got it eventually. I'll tell you what, I'll get there one day. All right. Question one. And we're going to start with Brett first and then go to Chris. Given there will be no major difference to our ladder position at the end of this round, should we be resting players? Okay, go for it, Brett.
I think because we don't know whether the bye's locked in, do we? I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm okay with it. Yeah, there's a few tired old bods there that might need a rest. I don't mind a few of the fringe players having a crack as well. So I'm okay with it when it's not like it's a nothing game. There's still form and fitness to be played for. And I think we can still actually technically finish fifth. Not super likely, but I'm still okay with resting a few of the older bodies or those that maybe a little bit sore.
Nailed it. Right on time. You cool cat. All right. Over to you, Chriso. 45 seconds. Go.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the other side of Brett. I like to sit there thinking that we could taper into the finals. So have the team solidified by now and just put the best team out there to kind of get the processes and get the whole structure right a week before the finals, and rather than having to use the finals to kind of find ourselves, given it is elimination. So look, if the players are sore, like Kennedy, who I understand's got a bit of a hammy thing and needs a bit of time off, bloody hell, give it to him. I mean, he's getting on a bit and he's so important to the team. If it's to test some different players, I'd prefer not. I don't understand why Fox is out of the game. He's been playing so well in a back line that's so important to the way we play. So, yeah, no, I prefer not. I prefer we should be just playing all the best we can.
I'm somewhere between both of you guys. Hey, rest them if they're sore, but keep momentum because the last 2 weeks have been pretty unconvincing.
Yeah.
All right, question two, and we'll start with Chris this time and then go to Brett. Legends retiring. Silk Burgoyne, Eddie Betts, Jake Carlisle, Cale Hooker, Levi Casboult, Bachar Houli, David MacKay, and David Astbury. Thoughts?
Yeah, massive, isn't it? Like, look, all these big teams, Hawthorn, Carlton, St Kilda, Essendon, Richmond, Adelaide, like all losing a great player, one with plenty of history there. It's pretty big. I mean, I think COVID's probably taken a massive toll on some of the older players in particular. Over the last, Eddie Betts been playing for 17 years, over 17 years you've been playing a particular way, and then the last 2 years it's just been buggered, like hard for them. It'd be tough to keep going, for sure. I think the biggest ones of those names that we're going to lose in terms of AFL is Eddie Betts, not for what he does on the field necessarily, but what he does off it. A big person, but I think what he does for the game and for Australia generally, he can do off the field as well. So looking forward to the new history of Eddie Betts.
Nice one. Over to you, Brett.
Interesting way of putting it. New history, yeah, new chapter for him. Yeah, massive names. I don't know that I've really thought too much about a list of retirees until I just named a few out. But I mean, you could talk about all of them. Probably three of them I'd mention. The one who I think had the biggest impact was Eddie. Like, he's a crowd favourite, always did something magic. Plus, especially with what's going on right now around racism and stuff, he's there's just a lot about Eddie. Silk, absolute legend, multiple premierships, 400 plus games. Not much more to be said. I think we spoke about him earlier in the year. And then Bachar, your comment about COVID, Chrissy, I think Bachar, the COVID stuff got to him. He's a very family-oriented man, and I don't know if it's injury or maybe that whole situation, but yeah, sad to see him go. He's very, very good to watch on the rebound. So yeah, they'll all be missed, but those three in particular.
And Bachar has a massive impact off the field as well with what he does for the Muslim community. So I think that's huge. We might not see the last of him. Maybe he makes a bigger impact off the field as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Chris. So, I would just say, I don't know if I've seen anyone as exciting as Eddie Betts ever.
Never.
Like, I watched the highlights reel again during the week, and I was like, man, this guy, the goals that he kicked, I don't know if we'll ever see anyone like that again.
No, we saw it at the Carlton game. Remember just that little one hand, even after 17 years, still delivering.
Still got it. And then I think everyone at the SCG just stood up and clapped because it was just brilliant. It was just
right. That's right. That was brilliant. The whole crowd just got up and started clapping for him. I think everyone recognised at that point this might be the last time you see Eddie Betts on the field and in Sydney and live, and we loved it. It was like the guy's incredible. Like, he never stops entertaining.
It's unreal. It would have been so amazing to be at Adelaide Oval, like when he was at the peak of his powers and kicking all those goals from Eddie's pocket, which was probably on both sides of the fields, because you could just hear the Adelaide Oval, the Crows fans just erupt. And yeah, it's hard not to get excited. So yeah, it's sad to miss that. But yeah, as you guys have said, like, his next chapter is as important as his playing career has been. So yeah, thank him for his playing days, but also thanks in advance for the good work he's no doubt going to do for the community and awareness in general in Australia. All right, question 3. We're going to start with Brett and go to Chris. Of the teams the Swans might play in the Elimination Final, who is the biggest danger and why? Giants, Bombers, Eagles, Dockers. Go.
Probably the Giants. I mean, the Bombers coming into some form, but the Giants, the last 2 games, they did a number on the Cats and the Tigers as well. You just look at that, there's just talent everywhere. You got Whitfield, Haynes, then you got the mid, you got Hopper, Taranto. I think Canelio has actually been dropped, hasn't he? Anyway, when you got guys like that not in the team, and you got Josh Kelly and Toby Green, I mean, that's the team I'm fearful of, and Daniels. Yeah, there's just players everywhere. So I'm probably fearful of the Giants out of those. Less concerned about the Dockers and the Eagles. With all respect to any Dockers and Eagles fans listening.
Over to you, Chris.
Yeah, it's funny that I don't think the WA teams are going to be in it this year, just given the way the ladder's going to play out, which is ironic because if they only play well at home, particularly the Eagles, and if the grand final is in Perth, then they're not going to play it. That's just hilarious. But yeah, so I've got GWS and the Bombers that we're more likely to play. Either team is dangerous, like Brett mentioned there. The skill set across GWS is insane. Like every one of those players at every position is incredible. Yet Taranto run up forward last week and just screaming, like the guy's so good. And the Bombers are the same. Like they've got great players all across the board, and their mids from either team is just incredible. So yeah, either one of those teams is tough, but I would go with GWS, our younger brothers over there in the West. I think they'd be the tougher gig.
I'm just going to say I'd much rather play the Eagles and the Dockers this year, even if it was in Perth, because as you guys have both said, the Giants on paper have always looked strong, but they're in form, right? They beat the Cats in Geelong and the Tigers, and they're getting players back. And likewise, the Bombers, like Jake Stringer, is basically Dusty this year with Dusty out, I think. So, yeah, massive danger ahead, I think. It's a bit of a shame, like you said, Chris. Like the Lions last year, they couldn't get the job done while the footy was up in Queensland. It's I think the Eagles and the Dockers will be kicking themselves if it does come to pass that they play the grand final at Optus. But I guess that's just what happens, isn't it? They're certainly out of form, aren't they? The Eagles. But did you guys see that Eagles and Dockers game?
Yeah, I saw just the last quarter of it actually. After they came back from the thunderstorm warning or whatever, the lightning strikes. Yeah, and you saw the Eagles just like pummel on. It was just like, oh, there you go. The Eagles are good. They weren't good for 3/4 of the game, but they were good at the end, which is somewhat important. But they were missing a big chunk of the game, which is important apparently. Yeah,
it's probably I thought one of the most exciting games all year. You know, and David Mundy's 353rd game to equal Pavlich. The Dockers certainly turned it on, but yeah, it ended up being a really close game in the end, and I thought it was one of the most exciting ones I'd seen all year. Obviously, maybe it was the crowd that made it. You know, we're sort of accustomed to that fake noise now, but anyway.
Hang on, quick question for the two of you though.
Yep.
Do you think Mundy is not listed as one of the retirees because they may get through to the finals, and so we don't know whether this is going to be his last season, or do you think he's a guaranteed in for next year?
I feel like he's good enough to go another year.
I'd tick that one off. I think if Joey Kennedy is going again, then Mundy's going again. Yeah.
He is quality.
He's so good. He's
a fantastic player.
He seems to be getting better every year. What's going on?
Is he the Tom Brady? The Tom Brady without all the championships and the flags, but is he the Tom Brady of the AFL?
Yeah. Probably.
Getting better with age.
He needs to win more. He needs a better team around him. That's not his fault, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, he's probably about 4 years away from the Dockers being a serious flag threat. But
I think they're going to be great. I think the Dockers are going to be very good for
Yeah, I agree. All right, lads. Question 4, and we'll go with Chris first, then to Brett. If we could only keep one of Stephens and McLean, who would you keep?
Okay. I've got a bit of a bad history with picking great players. So I wasn't a massive, I think I said this last week or the week before. I wasn't a massive fan of Florent until he really came into his own. I didn't see what was going on. Like, what is happening there? They keep picking him in the side. He keeps making mistakes. I don't like what's going on. And then he just kept playing. And then they end up being the Florent that we know, which is just an absolute gun. So I don't necessarily want to write off Stephens yet, although I haven't seen what I need to see them for me to say that I'm a big fan of him. So I'm sticking with McLean. I think he's brilliant. He's working really hard. He runs heaps. He's proven he can play everywhere. He's in the ruck, he's in the backs and the forwards. I think I'm all about him. The only advantage with losing McLean would be that we don't have to listen to Dermot Brereton talk to us about how firstly, we shouldn't hear from him anymore. He's done. He's with history. And also, and it's not about you, Dermy, it's about the players on the ground. So let's move on with it.
Well said. All right, over to you, Brett.
I think I need some of those sound bites from Brereton because I haven't actually heard them yet. But I'm with Chris. I'm just a Hack fan, and from what I've seen from Stephens, he's not giving me enough to say I would keep him over McLean. I love McLean's work. There's some inconsistency there, but he's young and he plays a big body role. But yeah, I've seen his body movement, his positioning. Took a hanger last week, which I hadn't seen.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm liking what I'm seeing in McLean more and more. There's a bit of polish that needs to take place, but I think McLean over Stephens. But like you said, Brazza, until we get who knows what Stephens could be, but right now all I can run off is what I've been seeing, and he wasn't very convincing in that St Kilda game.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we made mate Steve-O made that point. It was a hard game to come in and try and impress because the whole team was down against the Saints, and probably one of our worst games all year, at least in a pressure sense. And it's hard to rack up tackles when you're on the wing and running around a little bit like a deer in headlights. But so it was tough if that was the last audition. But yeah, look, these are the types of questions that I just can't answer because, I certainly think that the Swans would benefit from having both of them. But Stephens is definitely a work in progress, but could be anything, as you said, Brady. Like, yeah, but right now I'd probably lean towards McLean for the reasons you guys have said. I think it was the Saints who are interested in him at the moment. He played with Sandringham, their feeder club. So there's a bit of word on the street that the Saints are chasing. So that'd be yet another Swan to go to the Saints, if you can believe it, if that comes to pass. So let's keep the Wolves at bay, or keep the Saints at bay, as it were. All right, lads. One cheeky last one. If you had to beat an AFL player in a one-on-one marking contest in order to save the life of your loved one, who would you pick?
All right, Brett, do you want to go first?
Which loved one? All right, I'm either going to have to, I'll pick the smallest player that I know in the comp. It'd have to be Caleb Daniel. I was terrible overhead when I was playing footy, so I'd have to go with someone that I knew I had some reach over. Caleb Daniel.
All right.
How about you, Chris?
All right. So I've got a loophole here. Firstly, I'm going to go in the same way that I'm going to go with Brett. I'm going to go with the smallest player. I'm going to go with Brent Daniels. Although he is pretty fucking tough and strong, he probably bumped me off without even thinking twice about it. But you didn't have a caveat there, so I'm going to go with an injured player. Sorry, Swans fans. I'm going to go with Blakey. I reckon I could take one over to Blakey tomorrow. And even then, I probably would still lose, to be fair. But I'm just.
You probably would. Yeah, I've seen you on the footy field.
All right. Well, I can't even participate because this body was not meant to leave the ground. So, I guess you don't have to in a one-on-one marking contest. All right. On the spot, that first-year player from the Demons, the Jake Bowie. I think he's nice and short. So. Yeah. That said, he'd probably run rings around me and still take the mark. So that's probably who I'd go for.
He'd take a specky off you and he'd be sitting there a week later. You wouldn't even know. Like a parrot. You wouldn't even know.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, that's it for today, guys. A massive thanks to Brett, as always, for your eloquent and succinct responses.
Nice.
And thank you, Steve-O from Finland, for that last question. So love you, Steve-O. I heard you got tackled pretty roughly in the game over there in Finland. It's hard to know when you're mortal and when your retirement age is coming up, but just leave the football to us and you just go retire somewhere in a nice sauna over there in Finland. And for everyone else, send your questions in. We'll take them on. You never know who's going to answer. We've got some fun things coming on and some interesting characters coming on to the podcast. And check us out on Instagram. We've got lots of good stuff going on there too.
And remember, if you enjoyed this but find yourself craving even more Swannies content, make sure to check out A Bevy of Bloods, in which another mate, Steve-O, and I do an in-depth review of the Swans' last game, preview the Swans' next game, and have a bit of a chat about footy too. You can find us on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts, as well as on our socials at A Bevy of Bloods. Over to you, Brady.
Up the Bloods. Go on the Swannies.
Go on the Swannies.
Up the Bloods. Come on.